welcome to another special episode of Zapped to the Past. I'm Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, it's a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We normally use the magazine Zap 64, where we still are, as a monthly guide for the games to focus on. We're in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. Now, normally we do this in a nice sequential way, just working our way through issue after issue. But back in the mists of time, we didn't cover some of the games in those early issues of Zap. It's only right and proper that we remedy that. This week, in our off period, because we're off on holidays and stuff between seasons 7 and 8 and before we get to 1992, we're going to go look at another 4 games that escaped our beady eyes back then. Isn't that what we're going to do, Graham? That's what we're going to do.
That is what we're doing, yeah. That's the plan, yeah. 4 classic games of the early days of Zap, which, like you say, escaped our attention, our evil attention, one might say. Or are they? Yeah. Do we like them or not? Well, we don't know, do we? Until we play them.
We don't know until we've talked about them, until we've actually played them and talked about them. So this is going on in the off week. We haven't started 1992 yet, but we wanted to get these in because then get these done, and we're kind of filling that hole, we're plugging that gap. The dike is no longer got holes in, and the water will not come through. That's what
Correct.
I'm trying to think of here. So I don't think we're going to talk much here. I think we're just going to get into the games. We've got 4 games that we're going to look at this week. So, Graham, should we get to the first one?
I think it's time.
Let's get into that first game then. Okay, and our first game that we are revisiting back to issue 2 of Zap is Moon Cresta. Cresta. This was the price of £6.95. Priced them weird then, didn't they? And got 63%.
Strange.
So, Graham, long ago, in the land of dark arcades, you could hear a short tune and then a very specific laser blast sound. It was kind of very different to anything else you heard at the time. And when I went and checked the main version of this, I was instantly transported back in time to those arcades. That tune was just, it was just, I remember it just, that it was used to blast out in arcades. It's amazing. I am, of course, talking about Moon Cresta. Just its laser noise was different. There was a difference to the sound in this game. Unless you knew arcade from about 1981, 82.
Yeah.
It was quite weird when I sort of went and played it. I was like, that brings back memories. This was originally released by Nichibutsu in 1980, and this is one of the early classic Space Invaders derivatives. From the Wikipedia, Moon Cresta helped propel Nichibutsu into the video game business, and it's one of their most successful arcade games. In Japan, it was the 4th highest earning arcade game of 1980, below Pac-Man, Galaxian, and Crazy Climber. So this is a direct port of the arcade game. Came from an Incentive. There's no story. It's just shoot stuff. And it was coded by A.P. Taglione, Philip M. Taglione, and Tim A. Walter. Very posh. All got middle initials. Very good. For the time, I mean, this is quite an old game. I mean, it's 1986, but it's got a decent high-res loading screen, which I quite like. It's got a nice. It almost looks like a Thunderbird. It's like Thunderbird 1, I thought. And it looks, because it's high-res, but it's got a strangely Spectrum-esque title screen as well, complete with a redefined keys option. And I was like, okay, looks a bit Spectrum-y, this bit. And you can play 1 or 2 players modes. It's got some options. It also includes the strangely worded intro text from the arcade game. And the high score tables. In a lot of ways, in fact, just about every way, this is the arcade game in the C64. It's like everything's been ported over. Like all the intro text, all the bits, everything. It's just all there. They've done it even down to the sort of weird, like I said, the weird text. It's all here. So the game itself differed from the usual Space Invaders style gameplay by having your ship be built from 3 different sections, like in a pyramid. So you had the small one at the top, middle one in the middle, and the sort of larger one at the base. So when the game starts, you sort of, all the spaceship comes up to the top, and you get that tune that I was on about, and then the 2 bottom halves sort of float off the bottom of the screen. You're left just controlling the top small part, and you can only fire 1 bullet at this time, and that floats down to the bottom. The enemies appear. They're much faster and wilder than the Space Invaders. They're kind of these sort of, there's 8 of them, 4 of them, and they're like these sort of, were they purple on the first bit? Purple, these sort of purple balls, and they're sort of whizzing about the screen. When you shoot them, they kind of split into 2. Well, one part of them dies, so you're left with things. So there's kind of 8 things you've got to shoot in this first section. If you kill all them, then the next wave of enemies comes on, and again they move in different patterns. So that there's yellow ones, and they move in separate patterns. Then you get like sort of spaceships in kind of waves, sort of sine waves coming around, and you have to blast them all. Should you get through this, the first 4 stages, then you get to dock with the rest of the ship. So what happens is those bits of the ship that you haven't used yet, because if you die, then you get to use the next section of your ship. So if you die, the next section comes up, so this middle section, and this can fire 2 bullets. It kind of has a bit weird, like, makes it a little bit easy for you, because you're firing 2 bullets, so you can take out 2 enemies at once. Because it doesn't, if you hit them with one of your bullets hits them, the other one will still carry on. That's nice. It doesn't kill them both. That's really nice, that is. But anyway, so if you get through the whole section with the first one, or even just the second one, you have to dock onto the larger bit. If you manage this, you use your fire button to use your boost. It's kind of like Lunar Lander, I think, if I remember rightly. So you're sort of trying to aim it towards your ship, trying to go down, you're sort of guiding it left and right, boosting to sort of control your speed. If you manage this, you get bonus points. But not only that, you go into the next waves of the game, you control all the ships. So you're now a big ship, and you're firing loads of bullets. So you get to control that, so you can like power up, which is cool. Reminding me of what we saw in like something like Terra Cresta, something like that. So in the subsequent stages, giving you loads more firepower. As more waves follow after this, there's another 4 or 5 waves. If you make it through them, then the game loops around to the beginning. It says, it's some weird text. I can't remember the text, but it loops around to the beginning, and it all starts again, only faster. And that's it. That was this arcade game, because I played this on MAME. I played through it on MAME. That's what the game does. This version does exactly the same. All the waves are the same. All the enemies are the same. The lunar landing is the same. Everything's here. Aside from the change of aspect ratio, because the arcade is tall and thin, whereas obviously the C64 is wide and fat. This is a very accurate port of the arcade game. The only thing it lacks is the tone of that music when it starts up. It has it, it's just not the same. But still, it's got all the levels, all the waves, all the text, all the power-ups, interstitial stages. It plays smoothly, pretty well. The enemies move fast. Everything's got a pace. The planets, though, that come in midway through the second phase of levels, they're way faster than the arcade.
It's crazy fast.
They're way faster. The arcade version doesn't move them that fast. But in this one, they're like, like first time they appeared, I was in the middle. Yeah, you just go out. As soon as you get to the planet, go off to the left. You only need to go to the left. It's easy enough to get through if you're just not in the middle. But yeah, so it is what it is. But yeah, that's kind of crazy. This is a really good conversion, very good conversion of an old arcade game. So your mileage of this is going to vary and probably be based on any nostalgic feelings you have for it, because it's Moon Cresta on the C64. It's a very, very competent, very well put together, very accurate version of that arcade game. For me, hearing that tune, well, it just transported me back. So I had a bit of old school, simple blasting fun with this one. I enjoyed my time with this. It's Moon Cresta, and it's a good version of it. It's a good C64 version of Moon Cresta, done in just the aspect ratio is a bit different. I liked it. It's Moon Cresta. It's a classic single screen Space Invaders derivatives that's got its own little sort of quirks and idiosyncrasies. I liked it. What about you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not going to add much more to that. I mean, I remember mentioning Moon Cresta back in episode 46 when we reviewed Terra Cresta.
Oh, it is. Of course it is. It's the sequel, isn't it? God, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, it's the sequel to Terra Cresta.
Oh, the prequel to Terra Cresta.
Prequel, but we said it was a good conversion then. We didn't go into as much depth as that, which is, it was more of a passing thing. But we said it was a good conversion then, and it is. Remains very playable. It's a great little shooter in that vein of these types of shooters. The graphics are good. Patterns all work really well. Functions nice and fast. It's challenging, particularly when you get the lightning speed meteors that destroy you within microseconds. But the sounds, they're of that type. The pew pew sounds, but they are what they are. Very good. I thought it's a very competent arcade conversion, all said and done. Take note, Double Dragon. It's a very good, competent arcade conversion and very playable games. But these kind of games always are. They appeal to a core gamer in me. Right? It's like the Neanderthal gamer in me that's like, must shoot spaceship. There's nothing wrong with that. Really good stuff. And the little try spaceship thing, I quite liked it because your shots get wider as you get bigger as well, but you get slower. It's kind of a clever playoff, really. Yeah, good stuff.
It reminded me of what we said kind of about that gapless as well when we looked at that similar kind of thing. But this was done ages ago. But yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff indeed. Yeah,
Moon Cresta, go play it. It's a fun arcadey blast, old school arcadey blast. That's absolutely that. Let's move along. Graham, it is your pleasure, perhaps, to talk all about SkyJet.
Well, pleasure's a word. This is SkyJet. This was a Mastertronic. This is early Mastertronic. It's very important to say that.
Yes.
Now, early Mastertronic games were always a little bit crap. Wing Commander crap. Remember that?
I do.
So this is SkyJet. It was $1.99. Zzap mysteriously in issue 2 gave it 78%. I don't know what they were smoking, but it didn't deserve that. It was coded by Kevin T. Green. He went on to make Night Racer, Flash Gordon, and Chromazone, amongst others.
Oh, okay.
Now, they're not bad games.
No, Night Racer was good. It had that nice tree line effect, remember? We raved about the tree line effect.
Chromosome had a good 3D as well, I seem to remember.
Yeah, it is really good. Yeah, and Flash Gordon, they're not bad games at all.
Had good 3D as well.
Yeah, there's no musician credited for SkyJet. I wonder why. So this feels pretty basic, this really, to say the least. Possibly the most basic menu on a game ever. I mean, it looked like it was written in BASIC, maybe, but it is like menu in. It's very basic. And I like it for that. But that said, it just appealed to the minimalist in me. It is what it is. It's just, it's a no frills title screen now. If anyone says, what's the most basic title screen you've ever seen? I would say, go and check out SkyJet. Anyway, you can choose your skill level or start the game. Okay. Well, what else would you need to do?
Yep.
The bottom row is your score. Lives, of which you have 5, and then the high score. What else do you need, really?
Nothing.
You start the game, and then you can adjust the noise filter sound for explosions, or as I like to call it, the annoying factor. How much annoyance do you want in this game? Because these sounds are going to be played a lot.
Yeah.
So you can do that, and you can sit there, I think it's joystick controllers, I remember it, just listening to the sounds of an explosion repeatedly in different filtered tonalities. And it's a weird thing to do. And I found it weirdly cathartic for some reason. I don't know if that means that there's something wrong with me. I think it probably does. But anyway, you do that. And then the game begins, and so will your pain. So will the pain. Okay, it's £2, this. And it's basically impossible and has loads and loads and loads of stupid issues. The sprites are pretty basic, but it does, I suppose, look like a helicopter. And for your sprite and the enemies, well, they're kind of floating tanks or submarines. I don't know. There was tanks on the water, and then there was submarines in the water. I don't know. Are they boats? I don't know. Anyway, they shoot upwards and unleash massive explosions. I mean, like big explosions.
Massive.
And they also fire bullets, and they're very difficult to avoid. And if you fly into the explosions, you die, even if you're in the explosion. That's a dead annoying thing to happen, that in any game. So you've just got to avoid everything, really.
Yep.
You control the helicopter with the joystick, and there's a pretty heavy gravity effect pulling you down. Now, I can only assume that you're not on Earth. And I just want to make sure the science is tight here. Helicopters can hover. That's kind of the thing about helicopters. That's the whole point of a helicopter, is it hovers. So why this has got gravity pulling you down all the time as a helicopter is beyond belief. Why is it called SkyJet when you're not in a jet? I don't know. We don't know the answer to that. We don't need to know. But gravity greatly affects your ability to move. And obviously it's been put in there to make it hard to get across from point A to point B. Because the whole idea of the game is you've got to pick up these pods and then drop them on a specific area to build this base. And then you've got to keep doing that. So you're fighting gravity, massive explosions, which will blow you up, as I say, if you enter them. And that's a bit crap. You can shoot with the fire button, or if you hold it down, it drops bombs, all of which seemingly does nothing. So it's just there for effect. It doesn't do anything. Bombs don't blow anything up. Your bullets don't shoot anything. It's just there. Like I said, the idea is to collect the pods with ET written on them for some reason and drop them in a specific area where it builds a little base, all the while avoiding the endless attacks and all the explosions. The truth is, you might, for a while, do that, but this is so overwhelmingly basic and so ridiculously hard and annoying, you're not going to persevere with this for long. It's called SkyJet, and you're not in a jet, and maybe it's a jet helicopter, who knows, and who cares. Obviously, this is an early game from Mr. Green, and annoying things aside, I suppose there's a solid attempt at a code base for this. I don't know, is it basic? I don't know what it's coded in, who knows? Maybe it's just willpower. It's just all a bit dull and repetitive and stupid, and I suppose it's £2. It's one of the earliest examples I've seen so far of a really dumb, stupid budget game made for somebody to get because they've been whinging in the shop for the past hour because they've been shoe shopping with the mum to shut them up. They've gone, right, here, have this. Sounds exciting. Have SkyJet. You got home, you loaded it up. You pretended to be into it for the first 20 minutes. Then you realised the futility of life and you wish you'd never seen it. But by then it's too late. So you're committed. So you just have to smile. And when your mum looks over and thinks, oh, it's nice to see him happy with that computer, inside you're seething. And that you're realising that, never should you buy a Mastertronic game again. Because Mastertronic did themselves no favours in those early days, did they? They were really, really famous for being Masterchronic. So it's a Masterchronic game. It is what it is. You're not going to get very far, nor are you going to enjoy it. It's really weird. But the filter changing simulation, that's odd. So maybe that's odd. I don't know. What did you make of it?
Pretty much exactly the same. I found it quite annoying and more tricky to control than it needed to be. It just doesn't need to be this tricky. Blasting back and forth was fast and smooth enough, I guess. The scrolling was okay. But the giant blocky explosions were annoying, and neither my bombs nor my bullets seemed to do any damage to anything. I couldn't see the point of them. Why have them? And also as well, why did I keep crashing into the ground sometimes when I went to pick up the ET pods? Sometimes I'd land, sometimes I'd crash. I couldn't figure out what the deal was there. So I don't know. The visuals are fairly basic, and this is as you just said, it's a decent example of a £2 special from that period. It's twitchy and annoying, but It is. I did find it weirdly a bit addictive in that frustrating way that these games have. There's an addictiveness to once you started building that thing, and it was slightly like, it was frustratingly addictive.
There is a weird thing about it. I don't know what I can say.
It had something because it was like, it was so simple. It was so frustrating why it was killing you. So it was like, I'm not going to let you beat me, you damn stupid little thing.
Yes, I'm like, I'm getting this ET pod.
I'm getting this ET pod, and I'm building that damn thing. And when I built the thing, and then another small thing started building, I was like, oh, for God's sake, let's cut more.
So
mean,
funny.
Yeah, I think for £2 in 1985. I think the frustration addict, you would have played this through just because you would have kept playing it because it would be like, I'm going to do this because there was a weird little kernel of. You would have been angry about it. You wouldn't have been happy, but you would have played it, and you would have probably just kept going at it for £2.
Yes,
but yeah, I think all the emotions you were saying would have been annoying, but you would have kept going at it because it was that kind of. It's that kind of game. It's frustratingly, annoyingly addictive, but I don't know why because it's so crap. In every single way, but it did have a kernel of like, God damn this game. I don't know. Weird. Because it's so simple. You're like, there's something simple can't beat me.
I was exactly the same. I didn't like it at all, but I found myself going, that pod is getting
yeah, exactly.
Some explosions. You're not getting me. And I was there hovering backwards and forwards, trying to get the little pod thing. And then, because you lower yourself down in the game, don't you? You lower down to pick up the pods. But if you do it too quick, you explode when you hit the ground.
I mean.
I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you get game over and it start, and you'd be like, oh, God, build that damn thing again. Funny. So SkyJet, maybe, I could, it is what it is. I don't know. There we go. SkyJet, frustratingly, damn anger-inducingly annoying. But you will want to build that base.
You will. You
will want to. There we go. That's SkyJet. Let's move on to our next one. And that is Ice Palace. We looked some beyond the Ice Palace ages ago, didn't we? That really stupidly hard 3-level thing.
We did.
Which was a Ghosts and Goblins ripoff.
We did.
That's nothing like this, though. This is Ice Palace. No, the cover is the original cover, the Mastertronic re-release cover has a lot to Narnia. There's a lot to Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. But this cover, no, it doesn't. Because here's something I learnt while playing this one. Creative Sparks. They were originally the video game publishing wing of Thorn EMI.
Oh, I wonder why that was on the bloody game when you started.
That's why it was on there, because I saw it Theo in Man. So I had a look, and Thorn EMI they released quite a few games. And that's why there's Thorn EMI on the title screen. Thorn EMI were huge, weren't they? There's this big corporation who just eventually sold everything off.
Just disappeared.
Disappeared. But I just remember them for video trailers. They released loads of videos, didn't they, back in the early days of videos in the early 80s. And you'd see trailers, Thorn EMI presents. Anyway, this is Ice Palace, a game from Paul Norris. Do you know he did Zoids and Stifflip and Co.
Wow, okay.
And something called Wicked, which we'll get to see next year. So there's 4 games he did, and this is his first one. So this was his first game. I'm not going to lie. It's a bit of a confusing one.
Just a bit.
I found this game confusing. The story's fairly simple. The land has been taken over by the evil Ice Queen, casting eternal shadow and chilliness everywhere. No, it's not Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. Stop thinking that. It's not that at all. Only by restoring the 7 parts of your deceased father's crown can you banish the queen and bring some sunshine and much needed warmth back to the land. To do this, you must wander around a hexagonal maze-like land, avoiding creatures or shooting them with your fire stick, whilst rotating entrances around and then visiting giant swords to find stuff. That's
okay. Okay.
That's what you do. This is quite the confusing game. Whilst I like that it is attempting to do something a little bit different, it's far too obtuse and user unfriendly. For example, as you move around, the controls are basically you can see it basically you control a little guy from the top, and it's like a top-down view, and you exist in these hexagons, but you can sort of move around at will within these hexagons, but they have gaps on certain sides of the hexagons that you can fit through to go into the next hexagon. Now each hexagon will have different things to do. And so when you get to stand on a sword icons, the sword on some of them, you can press the space bar. Well, you can press the space bar whenever you want, but if you press the sword icon press the space bar on your sword icon, it brings up the menu screen, and this shows all the game's info. So there's kind of 2 screens to this. There's a sort of scrolling hexagonal map, and then there's the menu screen. So on this menu screen, because there's no UI much on the other screens, you've got all the UI on this other screen. So you've got a bar showing how close to evil you are. Now this is basically your health. You've got to stay good. So you've got good at the top and evil at the bottom. And this moves every time there's enemies sort of just randomly sort of wandering about the main screen. And if they go over you, they turn you more and more evil. And if you go full evil, then it's game over. You've also got an energy bar, which I don't quite understand. There's the level you're on and how many bits of the crown you've found. Now, below all this, that's all at the top of the screen. There's a picture of a skull as well. I don't know. It's very odd. There's also whatever item is at the place. So there's two sort of squares in the bottom thing. On the left, there's a load of options that you can do. And on the right, there's any icons like your inventory or anything else that's at that place where you're at. So the things that you can do, there's loads of things you might do with them. And these include things like tune in key A or tune in key C or rub rod with something. It's like, what is this? What options are these? It's not like take and pick up. They're just dead weird. It's like scale. Like, scale what? This is not your run-of-the-mill adventure. However, whilst you're on this screen, so you're in this menu screen, the game continues on in the background. And you can't see it, but evil creatures that wander about will still hit you. Before you know it, you're full evil and it's game over. So while you're the only way to get you back from going towards evil is by letting a blue orb float over you in the game world, and this puts you back to full good. However, this full orb will die, because when you press fire, there are other sort of things that fill up some of these hexagonal points. There's these little red sort of markers, and when you walk over them, they replenish your fire wand, and you can press fire. It lets you fire out like a controllable fireball that you can use to kill some of the monsters. It also kills the blue orb, which gets you back to good, so you have to wait for that to reappear. There's lakes which you can't cross. There's snow icons which become all slippery on. And the thing is, as well, is that the entrances and exits on these hexagons don't all line up, so you have to pull down on the joystick, and that will rotate the hexagons around you so that you can try and get out. I don't know. It's really confusing. There's an interesting game in here somewhere. It had echoes of things like Master of Magic, in this kind of adventure where you see stuff and there's this menu system and trying to do things. And so in the like, you sort of using the game world and menu items and finding stuff and puzzles and the like, but it's far too cumbersome to really come together. And it just feels way too obscure to really try and understand what the hell is going on. I know a lot of recent games like Dark Souls and Zombie U and things like that don't pause the game when you go to the menu, but in those games, you can pick safe spots in the game world in order to do your stuff in the menu. And you know you're going to be safe. But here, because you just do it on the blue screen, you press space, the randomness of the game's design in the overworld and the enemies that just respawn and just move over you offers no respite in order to try and figure out what to do with the items you find. Because it's weird. You find items, you're like, do I need to do that? Even picking something up took me ages to try and find the command to pick something up. It leads to severe frustration and ultimately me just giving up on this because I couldn't really get my head around how it wanted me to approach it. So there's an interesting premise here that's let down by its obscurity. If you're going to do off the wall, you need to allow players time to experiment and figure out what you want them to do without punishing them for trying to do so. But, you know, it's 1985. People are doing some odd things and trying to sort of find what sticks and what works. There's a kernel of an interesting sort of adventure game here where you're finding stuff and you're doing weird things, and this sort of hexagonal map is odd and there's monsters and stuff and the sort of way you sort of piling it up. But it's just too weird to really sort of hook you in too much. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, okay. Where are we going to go with this? And there's parts of it I liked. It's a bit odd and it's a bit different, and I quite like that about it.
Yeah.
So there's things that I liked. The oddness I quite liked. It had a gentleness to this, which was really unusual. It's kind of like light and gentle. Strange. It's very different in the way it presents the sort of game and the way it plays out. Like I said, gentle and kind of soft touch a bit. You know, even the opening screen had a nice sort of gentleness color palette to it. I thought the idea of the hexagon-based rooms connected and stuff, I thought that was pretty cool. And moving between them and stuff, quite intriguing. I quite like the way it scrolled and the way that worked. In its own kind of simple way, it was quite an intriguing concept. The control system was just a little on the frustrating side, though. I've never really been a big fan of these rotational controls and pushing up to go forwards. I find them dead annoying, especially in a game with tiny little ways to navigate through little doorways. Wouldn't it have just been much simpler to make it go up, down, left and right and just do it that way, or compass points or whatever? But this rotation thing, and I guess it's done for a point, but I just found it really annoying, and it kind of set me back a bit. But anyhow, it is what it is. You navigate those different types of rooms. It feels a bit overwhelming because there's quite a lot of them. finding the pieces of the ice crown. I don't know if I found any. I'm not sure. I was kind of just getting harassed endlessly by a giant bauble thing, and I kept running out of things to shoot it with. So
That's the good thing.
But I kept sort of trying to not. It wasn't quite doing what I wanted to do, I don't think. But that said, there's a lot of rooms, there's a lot of scrolls in this, there's lots of things. It plays, I think, quite nicely. Considering the size of the thing it was scrolling and the way that worked, that was pretty clever stuff. It's not going to win any graphic or audio awards, is it? It's what is there, I suppose, is quick on the eye. It's quite a nice way of exploring something. And it's something a little different. And I quite liked it for that. I didn't really encounter any bugs as such. It's just a bit early, an early kind of game for this, and that control system kind of annoyed me. But all said and done, quite interesting in its own logic. And it looks a bit different to other games of its type.
Yeah, it's trying something new and interesting and trying to do something with a sort of arcade adventure type thing.
And what it wasn't was pick up thing, go to the other place, put that thing down, walk 60 cubes to the left, take 60 hexagons right, pick up something, go and do it. Wasn't any of that. There was a purpose and a drive to this game, and you had to get on with things. And I quite liked the viewpoint of the rooms that you had. I thought that was quite nice, and the way that daggers pointed or the swords pointed to certain things. And it was quite a nice layout of a game. It's very reminiscent of a sort of almost like a board game notion.
Yeah,
turned.
I thought that as well.
C64 game. It had that vibe, but that's not a bad vibe to do if you can pull it off. So I quite liked it for that. It's not a bad old game, Ice Palace. It's very different for its time with an odd price. Pricing's way all over the place, isn't it? $7.95 it got, isn't it?
Yeah, who knows?
So 72% though. It's not a bad score. It just I think it's worth a revisit to see what you think. I think you'll probably find something in there. It's a bit different. So yeah, it's quite good.
Yeah, like I said, it had echoes of Master of Magic for me.
Yeah, it's got a vibe of that. And there was another game we played that had simplified graphics. You said it was a
Rogue.
Yeah. There was that kind of roguish, roguish. I can't remember the terminology you used, but it reminded me of that kind of simple approach to the game and the kind of scope of it. Not a bad thing, as long as the game's be underneath is quite intriguing. And some of these early games had simple graphics, but a good game behind them. This is kind of one of them, I think. Something in there.
Yeah, there we go. Ice Palace. Interesting, obscure, weird, but
better than a bad sandwich.
Yeah. Actually, what this is a sandwich where you thought you'd put something in it, and then it was completely different. You weren't quite sure, but it was still quite tasty.
Yes, exactly that.
There we go. That's Ice Palace. Let's move on to our next one. Graham, it's over to you. This one, I don't know what to say about this one, but this one's Antics. Tell us all about Antics. What antics have you been up to?
So this was different to the Antics that we'd originally thought. And it's also because that's a bit confusing on Lemon as well, because Lemon have a link off the Antics game, which has the Chris Hulsbeck soundtrack, which is a multi-part game. So there's 4 parts to that. That's not the same as this Antics, but they have a link to the Zzap review from issue 2, which is this Antics. So the TLDR of all that is we've got the right one, and it's called Antics. It was $6.95. It got 54%, and it was reviewed in issue 2. It was Bug Bite and also Choice Software. The original game was Adrian Sherwin. The maze was designed by Tim Lewis, and the music was adapted by Andrew Peckham. This was a Spectrum conversion to the C64.
Wasn't it?
It was a bit. Boris the Bee, who was the star of the initial game, which was on the Spectrum, a 1983 game called The Birds and the Bees, has been kidnapped by a gang of ants. You play his cousin, Barnaby. See, clever play on words, that, isn't it? And you must rescue him from their underground nest and a lifetime of sugar-based servitude. You control Barnaby as he travels through the underground ant complex, which has 2 different entry points from the 4 above-ground screens, which are initially in view. The main bulk of the game, the side view screens contain ants, which must be anticipated and avoided as they reduce your strength or stamina. The action is rather frantic at times. At the risk of being pedantic, you need to touch flowers to restore your energy through pollen. I didn't write that bit. That's from the blurby bit. Anyway, the game arrangement is a maze with many flowers, which remove barriers elsewhere in the maze. A little bit vague on these kind of games, but it's an early game. There's many individual screens, which are self-contained mazes with barriers, which are also removed when you fly into them. In keeping with the maziness, many screens have more than 2 exits, and once you find Boris, you must guide him back to the surface, but his speed is a lot slower than yours. So when you do find him, you won't get him back. I'll just be blunt about it. You're never going to get there.
No.
The game is played in weird colour-o-vision. So you get a grey background and your yellow single-colour sprite. On the top of the window is your pollen and stamina displayed as a sort of elongated bar. Your stamina will slowly tick down throughout the game, but is also affected by any nasties you encounter that will drain it away. Your pollen, when increased, slows down the effect of the stamina decreasing. So it's important to keep that topped up, which you will find by running into little flowers which are dotted around the various mazes. When you find those, you run into them, and it will increase your pollen, which means the stamina gets slowed down. It's the reduction of it. Below that in the UI is your score, rank, and the top score. What more do you need than just those things? What more do you need? You control Barnaby with your joystick and basically move him around a series of maze screens, avoiding the enemies, as I've said, and looking for your cousin Boris. Pressing fire will make Barnaby hover or fly upwards. Each of the mazes can have multiple doors and entryways and are displayed in high-res character-type graphics. Not very appealing high-res character-type graphics. The enemy sprites are a bit nondescript. They vary from being kind of small, discrete mushroom-type things and ants to ginormous, blocky bird things. and everything
and
that you
thunderclouds.
And thunderclouds that are just massively expanded sprites, which look naff. I think someone discovered the X and Y expand option and went, just put a giant bird in there for no reason.
Set that bit to 1.
So the enemy sprites, they're a bit nondescript. The ants, I suppose, look like ants, but it's not clear what, if any, purpose they serve generally, as some of them don't seem to affect you anyway. They're just kind of in the way, and you bump into things, and some of them take your pollen away and take your stamina away, and others don't do anything. They just kind of bump you about. It's like, oh. All the graphics look very Spectrum-ish, except the giant blocky things. They're very 64-ish. And it's not very appealing on a computer, really, generally, with colours, with more than 2 colours and multiple hardware sprites and multicolour hardware sprites at that. The sound is a horrific, shrill, single-channel version of Toccata and Fugue by Johann Sebastian Bach that would, I'm sure, have made him glad he was deaf and unable to hear it. So pointy are the sounds in that they would probably burst children's balloons at a party. In all, it's a dreary game. The maze exploring becomes very boring very quickly. They were very popular types of game back then, though. And I suppose in different trousers, this is like a crap version of Nose of Yesod. So while there may be legs in a maze explore game, this naff C64 conversion serves no purpose other than to make you go, ugh, and realise why the C64 was a better machine than the Spectrum from a very early stage. So there you go. Not great. Got 54% in Zzap. I don't know how it got that. I don't know. They didn't really like it. They just said it was boring, and it's a boring Spectrum conversion. It looks very Spectrum-y. So give it 54%. It's half good. It's not. No, it's not. No. So what did you think?
Yeah, this feels really old, doesn't it? Really old and really basic and really annoying.
Yep.
It just feels like you're playing it. You're going, God, this is old. With its single channel version of Bach's Toccata and Fugue, its single colored sprites, its boring grey background. This feels like a game from another era entirely. It's just You can tell it's a Spectrum game because it has all the hallmarks of one. From the annoying controls to the pixel-perfect accuracy needed to navigate the mazes. How hard was it to fit through some of those gaps?
Oh, stupid.
I'm pushing up. No, you can't.
So stupid.
It all feels so basic and annoying. There's very little here to make you want to play this. And even if I had seen this back then, I would have turned it off pretty sharpish.
Yes.
It just felt there.
Yeah, it's just a bit dirty and horrible. And you're like,
rubby. It's like, just no, $6.95.
Do you know what this reminded me of? If I was going to align it to anything, it'd be like if you know when you make a sandwich and then you bite into it, then you look at the sandwich and you realize there's bread mold on it. You're like, it ruins the whole sandwich. You're like, at that point, you're like, do I carry on, or shall I just throw this in the bin?
Throw it in the bin
because you've sort of, but you're committed. You've already eaten part of the bread mold. You think, well, I've eaten it now. Did I taste it? Then you realize there is that kind of fusty aftertaste of moldy bread.
Yeah.
And you're like, it does have a taste. Throw it in the bin. But by then, you've committed almost. You've eaten at least a fair bite of that sandwich. That's this Antics game in a nutshell. It's a mouldy sandwich.
Yeah, absolutely. And the worst thing is, and the chicken or the ham you've got in the sandwich crunches.
Yeah, one corner of the cling film wasn't quite over the edge, and the bread's gone solid. You're like,
the bread's gone thingy and the meat's gone crispy.
Yeah.
And it's just unpleasant.
If you can snap the crust on your bread and it's not toasted, throw it away. For God's sake, don't eat it.
Yeah. And then the cheese drips out the bottom corner.
Yeah, it's got a big lump of mold on it. You're like,
it's a bad sandwich, this game.
It was in the fridge.
That's what we're saying.
It should have kept it good.
Yeah.
It's a bad sandwich.
Nothing would keep this.
You're a bad sandwich, Antics.
Yeah, that's what it is. There we go. That's Antics. It's a bad game. It's not great. So there we go. That's it. 4 more games that we picked up from the halcyon days of Zzap, the early issues.
Loose ends that we've tied up there.
As absolutely. We looked at Moon Cresta, we looked at SkyJet, we looked at Ice Palace, and we looked at Antics. A strange bunch of games.
It's a strange time, wasn't it? Strange time.
Yeah, anything went back then. It's like that Gates of Dawn, Ice Palace. The kind of ideas, aren't they? It's a formative period of sort of game design where they're like, what works? What doesn't work? What can I do with this kind of newfangled technology? You never know. People didn't know back then.
A world where the chunky Kit Kat hadn't been invented.
Yeah, there was just the four-bar one, the four-finger one.
Standard 4-bar. And now you've got a new version of the Kit Kat, which has got a sharing Kit Kat that has the snaps in the middle, not the long snap. It's the middle snap. It's just, why have they done this? I don't understand it, and I never will.
I've not seen this. What madness are you speaking of?
Exactly. So traditionally you would get a Kit Kat. Do you want a Kit Kat? Yeah, you'd slice it down the old long strip, snap it into. But now they've made a Kit Kat that's got the snap in the center, across the middle, Adrian. It snaps it in the wrong direction. It's why have they done this?
Has it still got fingers, or it's just two chunks with a snap across the middle?
I'm not sure if it's chunks or it's fingers. I don't know. It's all wrong, Adrian.
They've turned it into like eight snaps.
No, it's like a fat Kit Kat, but with a snap across the middle instead of a long strip. It's an alternative reality version of the Kit Kat. I don't like it. It's come from the upside down, as they call it in that Stranger Things.
Oh God, I don't like that. Oh, that sounds all kinds of wrong.
It's not good.
Yeah, if you want to support us, keep it on going, playing through these games, and obviously we can start in 1992 soon. You can do that, and supporting us helps us avoid these Kit Kats. So go to patreon.com/Zapped to the Past and sign up to join our fight against the middle snap Kit Kat nonsense. We don't need that, do we?
No, we don't.
Good Lord. Yeah, so you can go there and sign up for that. You get access to our Discord and behind the scenes and all kind of come join everything and join in with stuff and everything like that. I think we've got episode 200 coming up soon. So if you want in on that, then you should go and sign up. But yeah, anyway, next week we've got the last couple of games to look at that we missed back in the day.
Pesky rascals hiding away there.
Yeah, that's Herbert's Dummy Run and Jonah Barrington's Squash.
It is.
But to fill up the episode, we've picked up. We're going to look at a couple of games that weren't in Zap. They're not kind of games that Zap forgot, but they should have really looked at. They were kind of came out round about that time. So the middle of 1985, we picked a couple of games from there. Those games are Black Thunder, not to be confused with Suicide Express or Loco, and Rocket Ball, not to be confused with Rollerball.
Exactly. Games that should have been in Zap.
Yeah, I think they should have been. So we're going to look at them as well, just to sort of fill it up and have 4 games to look at, because 2 seems a bit short. So 4 games to look at. So that's what we've got coming up next week. And there you go. That's it. That's it for this week. You got anything you want to add, Graham?
No. I think just go and, if you do fancy playing a bit of Moon Cresta, go and give that a go, because it is the sequel to Terra Cresta, isn't it? And that's always interesting. So
the prequel.
Yeah, sorry, the prequel to Terra Cresta. So go and experience some of that if you want to. Don't feel obliged, though. We've played them, so you don't have to remember. Listen to what we say when we say that. You really need that when we get to 1992. You're really going to need that advice.
I think you might do. So on that note, go play Moon Cresta. I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past, going back to the past again. See you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.